Welcome to how to fix a rough idle on a Ford Explorer for under $5. This Ford Explorer has a little bit of a rough idle and a little bit of a jitter as you're accelerating, so we're going to try to fix it. You're going to start off by locating the 3 screws that hold on the throttle body cover, and then you're going to remove these 3 screws with a 5/16 nut driver. Once you've removed the screws, you're going to remove the cover and then set the screws aside. And bend the radiator hose up out of the way and position it like I've got here. Then you're going to look behind the radiator hose and you're going to locate the PVC tube. Notice here that the PVC tube seems oddly shaped and almost crushed. The rubber seems hard in this condition. Here I've just started the engine, and you can actually see that with the engine running it has collapsed. In a lot of videos I've seen, the hole has been much bigger and easier to see, but in this instance I had to start the motor, and you can actually hear a high-pitched whistle when this is running, and notice the crack in the tube. Here I'm just removing the oil cap filler so it's easier to view in the video. It's not necessary during this fix. You're going to locate the 2 clamps that hold the assembly together and hold the assembly on the engine. You're going to squeeze the ears together and move the clamps either down the tube or off the tube. In this instance I'm pulling it off the tube. You may not be able to squeeze the clamps by hand, and if you can't, you can use some pliers to squeeze the ears together and move that clamp. Next you're going to remove the tube from the engine. You can carefully pry it with a screwdriver if it's necessary, like I'm doing here. Next step will be to carefully pull the tube from the hard plastic tube in the assembly. You want to make sure that you do not break your plastic tube. Here is a universal emissions hose from Dorman that I bought at AutoZone for about $4.98. You're going to compare the old tube that you've removed to a section of the new tube before opening, just to make sure you can make this tube section out of this universal tube. Once you've ensured that, you're going to remove the tube from the packaging, and you're going to sort of compare your old tube to a section of the new tube to make sure that you're going to get a good fit. Here I've found a nice fit, and I've marked it with my thumb, and I'm going to cut the tube off. Definitely find a safer way of cutting this tube than I'm cutting right here. I'm surprised we didn't see blood. Once you've cut the new tube, you're going to compare the 2 tubes and verify that you've got a good fit and that your orientation is going to be correct. Emission tubes are rigid, so they're very hard to bend, and they do this because they have to sustain vacuum or pressure inside them. Make sure that you put the clamps on the tube before installing it, and once the clamps are in place, you're going to push on the tube onto the fitting that's on the side of the engine, and then you're going to rotate it around to align it with the plastic tube. Then you're going to push it onto the plastic tube. Here it was very cold outside when I was working. I should have warmed the tubes up so it would have been easier to push on, but I didn't. So here you're going to squeeze the clamp ears and slide the clamp up the tube so that it's over the fitting and over the outside of the tube. This will ensure a nice tight vacuum fit. Again, you can either use your hands if you're strong, or you can use pliers. And upon starting the engine, you'll notice the tube does not collapse like the old tube does. Now you're going to replace the oil cap if you did take it off, and bend the radiator hose back to where it belongs. Now you're going to set the throttle body cover back in place, make sure the holes are all nice and aligned, and you're going to install the 3 screws holding the throttle body cover down. After you've put the 3 screws in, you're done. Hey, congratulations. Hopefully this helped you to be able to stop a rough idle in your car, and thanks again for joining me on how to fix a rough idle on a Ford Explorer for under $5. Thank you very much. Goodbye.